Welcome back to another Commander deck profile. Today we'll be going over YGRA, Eater of All. This is a deck I built here for my wife, one that she very much enjoys playing. I haven't really played much here with it, but she really enjoys it, so I'm going to do my best here to explain what it could do. Its main thing is it makes all of your opponent's stuff into food. This way it's artifacts, so it's able to be destroyed with stuff that destroys artifacts. Along with that, it'll also allow us to get benefits off of when it becomes food and gets destroyed like that, or sacrificed like that on our side of the board as well. Also, when it does get sacrificed, it does also make YGRA stronger, along with some benefits, those +1/+1 counters. Make sure you leave your own deck profile down there in the comment section, and I'd definitely be happy to discuss it. But yeah, let's get into it. So, to start off deck here, we have a whole bunch of things that do the removal thing. We run Basilisk Collar because due to YGRA getting really strong, we want to give it Death Touch. This way, based upon the way that Death Touch and Trample work together, it'll allow YGRA to deal 1 damage to the creature, then the rest of the damage it could deal tramples over. This way, when eventually you get YGRA to the point it could deal enough damage to win via commander damage, it'll deal that 1 damage to your opponent's creature. Like I said, rest tramples over. Canker Bloom will sacrifice itself, giving YGRA the benefit off of a food dying that way, but then it'll also destroy a target artifact, which will give it those extra +1/+1 counters when your opponent's food there dies. Each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, giving YGRA even more strength. Fade from history. Once again, since your opponent's stuff is all artifacts now, it's essentially a board wipe for all their creatures, also all yours, except for YGRA though. The thing with that too is, even if someone doesn't have a creature, you do give them the 2/2 bear. If they control like even a Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, it gets rid of all those things and makes YGRA normally strong enough to swing in for commander damage. Hunter's Talent will give it Trample. This way, once again, based on the way Basilisk Collar and Trample work together, those benefit off each other, and also just swing in for commander damage on that as well. It also is a little bit of removal by having it fight something, or a little bit of draw power when you have YGRA staying on board there. Insidious Fungus does the same thing that Cankerbloom does, where it sacrifices its health in order to destroy a target artifact, giving it those 4 +1/+1 counters essentially. Silverback Elder, while itself doesn't get sacrificed, it does destroy a target artifact or enchantment when a creature enters, allowing you to get that little bit of extra removal there, or 4 life, or an extra land, depending what you need at the time. There is a certain point with Midnight Snack where you may want to gain the life, especially if you have enough mana at a certain point in order to, sacrifice all your foods, get Midnight Snack there for the win. Trashing Brontodon, once again, same thing as Insidious Fungus, just a little bit more limited for this one. Tribute to the Wild, each opponent sacrifices an artifact or enchantment. They can sacrifice their creatures, they can sacrifice their soul rings. Just something easy to get rid of. Undergrowth Leopard couldn't be more similar to Drashing Brontodon if it tried, unless it, had 1 more green mana it needed to cast it. Then we want some things that benefit off the counters, like Champion of Doosan, which will give it another counter, but also that trample ability, something that we really care about. Innkeeper's Talent will give it that Ward 1, along with making it so it gets 4 +1/+1 counters anytime a creature dies. And you also start with a 1 +1/+1 counter there as well. Managorger Hydra, just a good +1/+1 counter creature, trampling over. Ozolith the Shattered Spire, may as well get potentially 6 if you have Innkeeper's Talent, because you get the 2 off its own ability, double that with Innkeeper's Talent, then you get an extra 1 with Ozolith, making it 6 there. Or just 3, both are still good there, and it gets those +1/+1 counters on either way. Quilled Great Worm, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage during your turn, put that many +1/+1 counters on it, so even if your opponent does block YGRA, you're still getting those +1/+1 counters on it, making it even stronger there. Sage of the Fang, puts those +1/+1 counters on things. Doesn't give it trample or anything like that, but it does double the number of +1/+1 counters on something, allowing it to deal even more damage. Surge Injured, a Meal Ender. Whenever another artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and scry 1. So you'll be doing a lot of scrying. You can sacrifice your foods in order to get that ability, or with your cards like Insidious Fungus or Cankerbloom, you get that ability off that as well, making it strong enough to swing in. It also has trample and hexproof as long as an opponent controls a planeswalker. Um, Definitely sometimes more common than other, depends on who you're playing with. Witch's Oven, sacrifice a creature, get a food token. We want plenty of food, plenty of stuff to power up YGRA. We can even get more food. And this is even like someone has something to destroy YGRA. May as well sacrifice it, get those 2 food tokens while we're at it. We could drain our opponents every time this creature enters the battlefield. Each opponent loses a life and I gain a life. Or we could sacrifice our food in order to bring it back from the graveyard. With all the food we have and, benefits that we get off sacrificing food, that does end up playing out well because we could potentially have enough mana to do that over and over again. Mirkwood Bats, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses a life. We have quite a few things that'll create tokens. Not a lot, but still enough where it pays off. Academy Manufacturer will get us a clue, food, and treasure anytime we create one of the above. Experimental Confectioner will give us a rat anytime we sacrifice whenever you sacrifice a food. Yep. So even if we sacrifice Undergrowth Leopard or Insidious Fungus for their abilities, that still ends up working out there. That also creates a food token, which will help us get Mirkwood Bats, or Academy Manufacturer for that sake. Midnight Snack, whenever you attack, which you're going to be doing a lot, you're going to get that food token, which will help us get Academy Manufacturer, or you can even sacrifice a whole bunch of foods in order to deal a whole bunch of damage to your opponent while you're at it. Nuka-Cola Vending Machine helps you create that food token once again, and since you're going to be sacrificing plenty of foods, it doesn't necessarily say food tokens, so you can sacrifice the Undergrowth Leopard and things like that in order to get a tapped treasure token to use there for the next turn. Rapacious Guest, whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a food token. And whenever you sacrifice the food, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, allowing it to deal enough damage with menace to, just deal a little bit of damage, a little bit of chip there. And your opponent's target opponent loses life equal to its power when this creature dies. So if we have enough things that we sacrifice while it's on the board, it helps us out there, along with benefiting those +1/+1 counters with this stack of cards here. Then we have Scavenger's Talent. Create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, target player mills 2 cards. Get their stuff into the graveyard. It's mostly whenever one or more creatures you control die, create a food token. This way, when we sacrifice our creatures for their abilities, we get an extra food token, so we get more power there onto YGRA. Scepter of Celebration allows us to give it trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, which could be a lot, creates a lot of tokens, which will also be a lot of food there to sacrifice to help power up YGRA even more. Shalab, Child of the Undulant, has Death Touch. Ward to other spiders you have get the same, but you're not really running any other spiders in this deck. It's mostly for its other ability. Whenever it's dealt damage, whenever another creature dealt damage this turn by a spider you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a food. It's already food, but you may as well get this stuff back since you're going to be wanting other stuff that works with food. Then we run cards that'll help us draw cards. Death Ritual, since we're going to be sacrificing our stuff for the food ability or their own ability. Or, even with all the stuff that we have to remove our opponent's stuff, it'll help us out there. Garruk's Uprising, make your YGRA stronger, get that draw power, give it trample. Mask of the Gristlebrand, give it flying. This way, sometimes they may have plenty of stuff that's stronger, but sometimes they may not have stuff that's stronger and flies. Also allows you to draw cards, potentially, if you get to a certain point. And also, with that and Midnight Snack together, that could be a lot of damage. Where were we? Yep, Night's Whisper, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. We could gain that life right back by getting a food token. Peregrine Took, whenever you get created an extra food on top of your other tokens. Once again, benefits off of all of our other food makers. Savvy Hunter, sacrifice 2 foods, draw a card. Sometimes you can really use that ability with some of your other abilities, especially when you have all of your creatures as food. Sign Blood, another draw power, Succumb to Temptation, another draw power. Toski Bear's Secrets, we had the Sandy Cheeks secret layer drop from the SpongeBob thing, so I figured we may as well run it somewhere. And also we're going to be dealing plenty of combat damage to our opponent, whether it be trampling over, or, just destroying enough of their stuff where they don't have anything to block with. Trail of Crumbs will get us that little bit of extra draw power, deciding what we want off the top of the deck. And Verdian Revel is really fun in this deck because our opponents will be losing their creatures, which are artifacts, which will get us that draw power off that. Let's slide this over here. As always, we'll go through the lands a little bit later. Swiftfoot Boots, so that YGRA has a little bit of protection. We don't really care about swinging in with the haste right away, just because, we want to get a little bit stronger first. Honored Dre Leader, put a +1/+1 counter on for each squirrel or food you control, which the food part of that's the part we care about more so. And we're going to be creating plenty of foods, having plenty of those entered, giving it plenty of +1/+1 counters, allowing it to get buffed off of all the other stuff that you have. Arcane Signet, which will allow us a little bit of extra ramp here. Biophagus will allow us to get those +1/+1 counters on top of that ramp. Clifftop Lookout, it's just a fun card from Bloomburrow to get that land on the board. Cultivate, for an extra land. Eleanor Gardner enters the battlefield, create a food. Whenever you sacrifice a food this turn, get a land. It's only one land per turn, but that could add up over time with all the foods that you have. Farseek for an extra land. Gilded Goose for sacrificing a food, create a mana of any color, or you can just get extra food tokens off that. Goreclaw, Terror of Khalsanai, mostly for that trample ability more so than it is for the reduced cost, but that reduced cost does help there as well. Heaped Harvest, it's a food, it gets you lands. Where can you go wrong? Elysian Caryatid, in order to get 2 mana off of when we have the creature there on board. Sorry, we have YGRA on board. Kami of Whispered Hopes, extra +1/+1 counters on top of your +1/+1 counters, helps out a bunch there. Kodamas Reach for some extra lands. Loot, Exuberant Explorer. Sometimes we'll have a whole bunch of mana, with 25 different versions of ramp in here, so its ability comes in to help a whole bunch. Many pairings, get a food, get a land. Everything we want to do in this deck. Nature's Lore, another land. Sorry, I'm starting to confuse what's land, what's food. Create a food token on this one. Also give a little bit of buffs to your creatures there, based on the amount of foods you have, which will be a lot. Poison Dark Frog is a little mana dork, which also could have Death Touch and Reach, which is just a good blocker. Rampant Growth for some lands, Return from the Wilds for some extra lands, and also a food on top of that. Sakura Tribe Elder, it sacrifices itself, so that gets the benefit off of sacrificing foods on this one. Soul Ring for some extra mana, Talisman of Resilience for extra mana, Tender Wild Guide, and Dree Tree Root Weaver for some extra mana on top of that mana for some mana dorks. A couple of these cards are, again, just because, like I said, it's my wife's deck, so there's some cards I just know she enjoys. Tireless Provisioner, create either a food or a treasure. We want both those things, we want mana. But yeah, that's overall the deck profile there. If you have your own way that you'd run the deck, make sure you leave it down there in the comment section. As always, I'm just scrolling here through the lands. I tend not to like to spend too much money on lands. I just use what I have. But yeah, like I said, thanks for much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you can stay tuned for the next one. Thanks for watching.